What does growth look like? I would say it's such a broad question, but if you can keep it as simple as 1% better every day, that's what I try and aim for.
Welcome back to episode 22 of the Grappling Growth podcast. Today, I was fortunately joined by Richard Wragg, the founder of Eryx Gear, a mixed martial arts apparel brand based in the UK. Richard and I have known each other for a few years now, so it's exciting to get him on the podcast to learn more about his goals, his plans for the brand.
I think I saw an opportunity to make the Gymshark of mixed martial arts, and I just had this vision one day of that Gymshark office with a big logo on it, and I didn't even have my company name yet, but I saw my company on there.
As entrepreneurs, we all experience challenges in our business journey. I'm Testouri, and the Grappling Growth podcast is my attempt at documenting my entrepreneurial journey while building my brands. I sit down with fellow entrepreneurs, understanding how they grapple with growth. I hope you find value and enjoy. Welcome back to episode 22 of the Grappling Growth podcast. Today, I was fortunately joined by Richard Wragg, the founder of Eryx Gear, a mixed martial arts apparel brand based in the UK. Richard and I have known each other for a few years now, so it's exciting to get him on the podcast to learn more about his goals, his plans for the brand. On today's podcast, you will learn why and how Richard started Eryx Gear, the inspiration he took from Ben Francis, the founder of Gymshark, essentially trying to become the Gymshark of the MMA space, his plans for the future, which are rather exciting, and his top 3 book recommendations for entrepreneurs, amongst others. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. If you enjoyed it, follow us on Instagram and subscribe on Spotify. Richard, just to kick off, what does growth look like to you?
Hello, hi Joe. Thanks for having me on, mate. What does growth look like? I would say it's such a broad question, and there's so many different answers. But if you can keep it as simple as 1% better every day, that's what I try and aim for. So I've got big aspirations for my brand, massive aspirations for the business, mixed martial arts, but as long as I do 1% better than I was yesterday, I'm growing.
So taking the brand back to its inception, what was the moment for you when you were looking at the mixed martial arts scene where you said, hey, there's something I can produce here? And then you took the business on. What was that moment for the listeners?
I think I saw an opportunity to make the Gymshark of mixed martial arts. So I took a lot of inspiration from what Ben Francis has done over in Gymshark. His head office is about 15 minutes from where I live, so I've gone past it quite a few times. And I just had this vision one day of that Gymshark office with a big logo on it. I didn't have my logo yet, and I didn't even have my company name yet, but I saw my company on there. And I thought, if I can just work this out, I think there's a huge opportunity within MMA. I'm a big sports enthusiast as well, so I've always liked boxing growing up. I've always liked football and those kind of things, but I didn't see the same opportunity in all these other sports. I just saw it in mixed martial arts. I trained a little bit as well, so I did have quite a passion in that field. but yeah, I just saw the business opportunity in that area. And yeah, I gave it a go 3 years ago, and now I'm here.
And because I'm a mixed martial artist enthusiast myself, for you, and we've worked with boxing brands, partnering with jiu-jitsu brands, why do you think there's such a slow adoption within the mixed martial arts space for brands? We know Venom has been sponsoring the UFC for a few years now. Reebok was previously there. Why do you think the quality is maybe lagging behind, so to speak?
I think I probably realised this when I went to a big exhibition earlier in the year. So I went to this big convention called Premier Vision, and what they have in Premier Vision is all these brands and industries from around the world, and they're coming there to make business. So you get all these buyers that go there from cycling, leisure wear, outdoor wear, and now there's a tiny section which is kind of like combat sports, and this is the first time it's ever really had its own little section. All these other industries are grown, they're old. MMA is about 20, 25 years old. So it's still a new sport in effect. I mean, how old are football clubs? 100 and something years, mostly in the UK. Loads of history, heritage, and it's probably quite a safer sport to play. If you want to think of it that way. Whereas mixed martial arts has been this like dirty little secret for about 20 odd years, and the last couple of years it's just gone commercial. So we've only had 5 years really where brands can now start to build themselves, start to grow in this area. And there's not a lot of high level competition. So when you enter in a market, if everything is really high level already, you have to be better than that high level of quality. But because most people enter this market and it's just lots of very small businesses, the barrier to entry is pretty low. So this is why I'm saying I saw the opportunity to come in with something more quality, make it a bit more commercial, and sort of get a lot of eyes on it. But other industries have got so much more advanced manufacturing, advanced techniques, better marketing, bigger budgets, so they can play that bigger game. Whereas in MMA, we're still kind of on the coattails of the UFC in a way. Venom are obviously the market leader. I think they turn over about 50 million a year in sort of dollars in revenue, so they're doing quite well. But in comparison, Nike will spend 500 million just on research and development. So there's a huge gap between mixed martial arts and commercial sports. And I think where I always go back to Gymshark. What Gymshark has done in the last 10, 15 years is what I think MMA is about to do. So I think in 10, 15 years' time, there could be these commercial gyms in every city centre. There could be waiting lists to join private MMA gyms. There could be kids' classes that are overflowing. And I'm hopefully the brand that's going to follow that industry growth. So yeah, I think it's kind of a new sport, still in its infancy and just going commercial, which is why you see that mix matching or what's on the market.
So you mentioned about the moment where you were driving past the Gymshark HQ. You didn't have the logo there, but you had a logo in your head, and that was it. Was there a moment where you had that vision before or after, and you thought, actually, let me start designing products? And then once you start designing those products, how did the first initial sell feel, and how did you make that first initial sell?
Oh, crazy, mate. How did I start designing and stuff? Yeah, I think another part of the story is I was training myself, and it was during lockdown, and I ordered from all these different brands. Some of that are still going today. They're okay. And I got all these T-shirts in my usual sizing, and from each brand, it was ever so slightly different. None of them quite fit right. Some of them too small, too baggy. And I just went, this market is here for the taking. I bet if I put my mind to it, I can produce something that fits better than these other brands. And these are like big commercial brands making millions of pounds a year. So they're not like startups. And I started by taking a tape measure and measuring some of the stuff that I had in my closet. So I had some Venom stuff, I had football shirts, I had some other gym wear, and I was measuring it all. And I thought, if I was going to design this, I would tweak this element of the sleeve. I would make it a little bit longer. I'd make it a bit more breathable, because some of these tops I've got are quite, they don't feel good when they're on. What's the material like? It feels quite rough, so let me go for a softer material. So this was like day one, and I was had this burst of energy, and I'm just writing things out on a scrappy piece of paper, ideas list, and I still didn't have the brand name or the logo by then. And I watched a video. I actually forget which video it was, but in the video it says, if you can just keep writing a list of 10 things to do every single week, if you have a business idea, and tick them off, you're growing. You're getting 1% better every day. And I thought, okay, so what are the 10 things I need to do today? Think of a brand name, make a design, probably need a website, register a business. And I put all these things down in this list, and I did it within like a week. And I was registered on Companies House. I had a domain name, and I had a dodgy template on the back of Shopify that wasn't populated yet. And my next 10 things were find a manufacturer, like get photos done, get some concepts made or some like samples made. And I've gone through that, and I just got this momentum after about 4 or 5 weeks where I felt like I'm actually running a business now. And this was just an idea just a few weeks ago. Still hadn't made a sale, still hadn't had a sample through the door, but my mind was telling me, you've now got a business in MMA, you've set up the structure in the background. It was more like naive optimism, to be honest with you, looking back. But it then took 6 months of learning and challenges and knowing that it isn't actually that easy to start a business, because I can make a fancy website, I can get an Instagram growing, I can get some social media following. I'm finding it really hard to get good products through the door. I wasn't able at that time to find the right suppliers. I was looking in all the wrong places. But yeah, it took around 6 months, and there were several iterations of like different jerseys, different shorts. And I actually launched with just T-shirts at the start. I'm a fightwear brand that had no fight gloves or fight shorts. I just had T-shirts because the shorts were taking too long. So I just launched with t-shirts, which is making me laugh thinking back. Um, and then a friend of mine called Dan actually put the first order in. I went live and I put a message into this group chat we had, and these guys have been following me for like 3 or 4 months, and I think like 4 out of 5 of them brought straight away. I had some family members that brought, and then I had like organic sales through social media from posting. And I'll be honest, the pictures I was posting at the time were just the t-shirt laid out flat on my conservatory floor, and there was no like high level production to it like it looks like now. It was real basic, really raw, and it just seemed to work because we built a bit of a community behind it, and I was just relentless in sort of getting something out and starting this business. And that feeling, mate, I still get it now. When there's a sale that goes through, I use Shopify for my website, and it has like a little ka-ching, like a cashier till, almost like an American kind of till. And every time it goes off, I'm like, I get this almost little dopamine rush, and I'm thinking, yes, I've got another sale because I'm a step closer to getting this where I want to get it to. It's not even like I don't focus too much on the sale, but every time it goes off, I'm thinking, yes, it's one more, one more, one more, one more. And if I can get to a certain rhythm and consistency with it, I know I can take this business really big. So yeah. So hope that answers your question.
It did. And if you cast your mind back to your younger self, and I guess this is broadly speaking as to what advice would you give to your 20-year-old self, and equally that same advice, what advice would you give to a young entrepreneur or even an older entrepreneur, someone who is just starting out their business journey? They've got this big mountain, they've got this big burst of idea where they've seen things and they said, I can do something here. What advice would you give to them to get started? And actually, to expand on that, to make money, because that's what we're in business for.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I would probably get my 20-year-old self and shake him by the neck because I didn't have this mindset back then. I always thought in the future I'd like to do something myself. I'm not too sure. When I work it out, I'll try it. And it took me until my sort of early 30s to actually take the chance. Um, but on reflection, in your early 20s is when you should be taking all that risk, all the chances. What could go wrong? When I was 20, I was still living at home. I was working full time, spending all my money on going out and nice designer clothing. But I could have been using some of that money to go either study in business, go network at certain events. I just didn't have the mindset when I was that age. But if someone is lucky to have that mindset and they're blessed with an idea at that early age, take the bull by the horns, take all the risks you can. And I don't mean all the financial risk, go and take £100 loans you'll never be able to pay back. It's like do it incrementally, but take the risk. What's stopping 20-year-olds in this day and age going, do you know what? I'd like to start a business. I'd like to go out to China for a week. I'm going to save enough money from my part-time job, my full-time job to get out to China to go see manufacturing live and direct. There's nothing like it. I want to go to this Premier Vision exhibition in France. I want to go to this something in London has loads every single year. Several shows in London, big events that you can go and learn, and a lot of it's free to go and just go and hang out. So you almost need to be going immerse myself in that environment and take all the risks that I can, because there's every chance it's going to pay off. And if there's this weird stigma around failure, or what if it doesn't work out? But I think, what if it bloody does? Imagine you can have a successful business in your early 20s, and you could be like one of these Instagram entrepreneurs selling a course about how to start a business. But yeah, take more risk would be my feedback to anyone that's in their early stages of their entrepreneurial career, and especially in sort of early 20s. It gets harder as you get older, actually, because you're probably more ingrained. You probably start a young family, and then the risk feels a lot higher because if it doesn't pay off, I've got bills to pay. So that's roughly where my head's at with advice. And then the second part of the question around sort of making the money, I'd actually say you've got to almost take money out of the subject for the first couple of years. You can make some money to break even, turn over, but I think it would be impossible to get Eryx Gear where it is now within a short 3-year period if I didn't have another income to live off. You almost have to throw everything back into it to grow it. And there's going to be mistakes along the way. You just got to hope those mistakes aren't too costly or too detrimental to the business. But I think Ben Francis was working at like Pizza part-time for the first 3 or 4 years. Whatever job you've got at that early age, I was probably in a similar role. I think I was at Tesco's or something at that time. I could have been putting money aside to put into a business for sure. but it gets a bit harder as you get older. So yeah, take all the risk in your early age.
So it's the exact advice that I give to younger people. My brother, he's a month off being 22, and 2 years ago, we sat down just having a chat in our local park, and he was saying about starting up a business and trying this and trying this, and I said to him, and it's such counterintuitive advice, but I said, I hope you fail. And he looked at me, and then we kind of expanded upon our conversation, and I said, I would much rather you try something and fail than you not even try because you're scared of it. And he's tried drop shipping. He's created his own brand last year, which he's parked for now. He might go back to it, he might not. I think probably overall he's lost money, but the amount of experience that he's gained, it's the equivalent of going to university, studying a degree where you might rinse through 40, 50 grand, but then there's not much to show for it except for a piece of paper. Whereas he might have, and he did this with his friend, they might be down £1,000 each. But the lessons they've gained from investing £1,000 into buying courses, speaking to manufacturers, making their own product, I think that in itself could be worth its own degree for them. And I always say to younger people, and I think this is a big problem amongst the UK, is the way how people see money is always as a cost. And people, as you said, they'd rather go out, wear Louis Vuitton, Gucci, all of this, buy bottles in a club, which it's all superficial, whereas investing in your growth, it's the things you can't see in the first instance that over time, as time compounds, that's where you start to see the benefits and rewards. And equally, when I quit my job 5 years ago in the city, I was 24, and I saw the opportunity cost is right now, I'm 24, living at my parents' house. Things are only going to get more expensive as time goes on. You have a kid, you have a mortgage. The risk to reward ratio is so much higher. So at this first instance, why not take the risk right now? When you fail, you go back. As you said, that job at Tesco or at a supermarket is always going to be there. And you can also work part-time on the side to supplement your job and to do everything there. A question to you is, and this was a question that we ask on every podcast now, books. Now, I'm an avid reader. What are your top 3 book recommendations, non-fiction, for someone who wants to grow a business?
Yeah, sure. I don't do any fiction, to be honest. It's not really my cup of tea. I'm more just facts. Or I feel like if I want to pick up a book and read it, I want to put it down and go, I've learned something. And I think there's some books I've read, and I would say sometimes people read it and go, well, I know all this. I know all this already. And it just validates what you're already thinking. But that's good. That's a good thing to do. You're on the right track. But there's going to be one sentence or a paragraph that sticks out and you go, I can change my whole business now. I've just read that line. I've got loads of books in here, but there's a few that were recommended when I first started as well, just YouTube videos and friends and stuff. And one was, actually, I've got them here. So the one called Start With Why, might be backwards on your screen, Simon Sinek. There's actually, if you're really lazy, there's a great video on YouTube where he just talks about it for about 10, 15 minutes. And it's all just talking about giving yourself the reason why you're doing it. And I read this when I was starting Eryx Gear, and I thought, why am I doing it? And I thought, it's probably just to get more people into combat sports. So I'm not watching shows and events by myself at 3 a.m. And I took that line, get more people into combat sports, and now it's in the background of everything that we do. So when we think of our marketing and design, we want to make, obviously, stuff for the hardcore fight fans and fighters already, but we want the market to grow. So we're going to work on our marketing in the next 12 months, 18 months to get more people into our sport. Not just following Eryx Gear and buy from Eryx Gear, that's a bonus. But if more people are interested in the sport and we can be a part of that, that's why I do it. That's why I do Eryx Gear. And there's other reasons. There's financial things, there's freedom, I just want to be in an industry that I love. There's all those, but it all comes back to getting more people into combat sports. Another one is Dan Priestley, oversubscribed. He's got loads of great books. I've actually brought quite a few of his other books and gifted them to people because he's came up in conversation. Oversubscribed just talks about having, I think you've read it as well, but that just talks about having almost demand before you start. So Apple do it really well. There's queues outside Apple. There's probably queues outside new trainer drops and stuff like that for Nike and size and stuff like that. But that told me how to start social media basically before I do anything else. And so I created the demand through social media. And when I launched, hundreds of sales in the first month because I took the effort and took lessons from that book. So yeah, really cool book. I've actually reread it since as well. But yeah, I learned something different the second time. And then marketing, which I still think I'm massively learning in, is really simple in this book. Ellen did one-page marketing plan. This is one that I read and I thought I knew it all, and then I got to like page 25 and I thought, I don't know anything about marketing. I need to use this book, and it gives you a one-page template to basically summarize all your ideas for how you're going to market stuff. And I think there's probably a bit of a comfort in these days that you just do Google ads and meta ads, but there's so many more elements to marketing. So loads of lessons in there that I'm still learning. But if you're an entrepreneur watching this, or you want to start a business in clothing or any other business, those will all be relevant to starting.
I think those are fantastic book recommendations, and I've heard of them all. I've read Oversubscribed. I actually read it not even 2 months ago, and I read two of his books back to back. Dan Priestley, that one, and I think it was called Entrepreneurial Revolution, which is also a very
Oh yeah, got that one as well.
and I think
I'll give you a bonus one. I'll give you a bonus book, Joe, which is keep it's like KPIs. It's basically key people of influence. And I was halfway through that book, and I literally did this. I need to become one of these people. I need to be someone key in the industry. So then I've now thought about the PR around myself, around building the brand a bit bigger, and how I can become the key person rather than trying to find all the key people. Because in this industry, they don't truly exist yet because it's still such a small space. Whereas like Ben Francis is a key person of influence in the sort of gym leisure wear industry. So that's another one I'd recommend as well.
yeah, that is a great book. I think a key takeaway for anyone who's starting out within entrepreneurship, setting up their business, looking to scale, is things are tactics. So ads, Google ads, meta ads, and there's a big, I think, emphasis with people that all you need to do is save up some money, spend £1,000 to £2,000 per month on advertising, get a 3 to 4 return on ad spend, and that's it. You can quit your job. But it's understanding all of the mechanics behind sales, marketing, manufacturing, negotiating, operating with people. If and you hear of all of these guys who fly by night, infopreneurs online who set up a business, they make money, and they're not around anymore. And I remember looking at one of my competitors, and it made me a little bit mad because I saw how much money he made in such a short space of time. And I now collaborate with one of his clients, and he told me that he's not around anymore. And I just thought, it's just such a scam, but that reputation, that's going to follow him because he's going to be a ghost that goes into all different markets and they're not around for much longer. But speaking of that, and a bit of a sidestep, I might not be a case, but have you had a moment within business where you're on the brink of quitting, where just things felt like you just didn't want to take the business any further?
Absolutely not, mate. Absolutely not. I would say if you are a visionary, which I think I am, a visionary entrepreneur, there's loads of different terms in entrepreneurship, right? You could just be a doer. Someone wants to make a small business, local coffee shop, laundrette, whatever. That's fine. If you're a visionary and you've got a plan in your head and you've seen yourself in the future with all the success, and success will look very different to many different people, but I've seen it in my head. I see myself in that 5-10 year period, and I've done all the hard stuff. The business is built. I've got a headquarters similar to the Gymshark one. Maybe I might buy the Gymshark one and put my own logo on it just to be cocky. But in my head, I've already done it. So for me, I think about my business now as just finding the right path. There could be a million different paths to get there. And you could go down some paths and go, do you know what? This isn't working. I have to turn around, come back and go again. But as long as you can believe in your vision and you can see it, and I personally believe it's already done. That's the way I see my business. And I just have to walk the path. And it gives me an unparalleled level of confidence in it. Some people call it arrogance, whatever, naivety. I don't care. I'm going to take Eryx Gear to where I want to get it to. And there's not been a moment where I thought, I want to quit, don't want to do it. But there has been lots of moments where I thought, shit, this didn't go to plan. How do I do it now? And there's been loads of those. Loads of
Can you
those.
tell us a
Probably more
moment?
this year. I might think of something that's a really good idea. I might launch a new collection in September, um, and it might not go the way I think it does. It might flop, and I go, back to the drawing board. I might launch kids wear and put lots of investment into it. Doesn't quite work. Back to the drawing board. I might European expansion. I might move into other territories, which I do plan to do. I might go to Ireland. I might go to Sweden, France, and I might take the same model I've done in the UK, naively think it will work in other countries, and it could become very costly. So I've just got to almost look at my growth and scaling in a very baby step way to make sure I don't take too much risk, but I take enough to get me into those territories. And if it doesn't work, scale back in one of those and put more money to the UK, because the UK right now is flying.
What's an example of something you were massively bullish on, which completely went in the opposite direction?
Hoodies in year one. Mate,
The one you're wearing now or other ones?
This is actually a lovely new one. It's beautiful. We'll probably bring some of these out later in the year. But in the year one, I found a terrible supplier that promised me the world. Got a sample which I thought was great. But then in my naivety of supplier management at the start, I assumed that they'll just make things exactly as the sample, didn't put any quality controls in place. And I got this order which was months late, and it cost me a shitload of money. But at the time, it was about $4,000, I think it was. And all the hoodies had been switched. The material was a cheaper material. And I thought, oh no, I've promised these to people. I've already sold someone a pre-sale. What am I going to do? So I reached out to a few people to say, slightly changed. I don't think the quality is as good, but we'll still honour the sales and stuff. So we got them out, and we had about sort of a 20% defect on them. Loads of them come back, and it was a real nightmare. And this was like year one after about 4 or 5 months of business, because we took 6 months to launch t-shirts, and then 4 months later we added some extra items to it. And I think I tried to expand the range a bit too quick, and I was putting these hoodies out for like 50 or 60 quid at the time. And looking back at a brand new brand, would I spend 60 quid on a hoodie and I have no faith in them or no trust in them? Probably not. But fast forward 3 years later, if I bring these kind of hoodies out now from the suppliers we found with the right quality control in place, we're bringing out an amazing product. But you have to go through those learnings and those mistakes and just hope they don't cost you too much.
What did you do with those customers that you sent products out to that they returned products from? Is there anything you specifically did to salvage or improve the relationship?
Yeah, I'm sure any defects we just replaced. And I'm super probably over the top. I'm a bit like Amazon with customer service, so I'd rather just a customer be happy and take a loss. So we're sending out replacement fight kit, and here's another t-shirt, here's a pair of shorts as well as that order. And I think at the time I was very close to that little community. So we'd probably, a lot of us had met, we'd been to shows together, I probably watched their fights. And so it was a good relationship there. So I think a few guys had let me off the hook, and they were happy to have replacements and stuff. But this is the garment industry, right? You can order something tomorrow from Nike and it could be rubbish and you send it back. So we just had, exchanges. I had to take a loss on my side, but make sure the customers are happy. And that's why if you go on Trustpilot or Google reviews or anything like that, we're nothing but 5 stars, because I'd rather a 5-star review and someone happy and we take a small loss, but we move into the future with a really good reputation. So I always think of like Amazon customer service. What would Amazon do in this situation? We're really sorry. Here's a refund. Here's a code off for next time. So that's pretty much our take on anything really. But luckily, that experience taught me get quality control in place, extra sampling, final samples, and even if it's here and it's not quite right, send it back. So nothing gets to market now without going through all that strict quality control. So yeah, good learning.
My view is to always take extreme ownership for what happened. The manufacturer makes a mistake, they mess up, it's your fault, it's your problem. And I really believe that customers, clients, they respect when you can go to them, you can put your hands up and say, look, we messed up. Now, here's a solution. And I've heard of business owners who turn around, they go to their client base and just say, yep, sorry, this happened. And they just sit back and they expect the solution to be there. Whereas, and everyone's made mistakes. I've made mistakes with clients, and it's about picking up that phone and just saying, hey, I know we fucked up. Here's our solution. Do you want us to go ahead with it or not? And if you can position it in such a strong way to say, look, I'm being vulnerable, I'm being honest. We made a mistake. You know we made a mistake. We know we made a mistake. This is how we're going to rectify it. Most people look at you and think, actually, that's a pretty stand-up person. Let's give them another shot. I can't think of an instance where we've made a mistake, we've gone to people with that approach and it hasn't worked. And I think taking that with your brand, you actually will get more loyalty out of your clients and customers by doing that than you would if it was just a neutral position to hand. And there was a really good
I
example
agree, Joe.
I heard about that, where same thing, returned order, and that actually improved the retention. And I think as a business owner, no matter what space you're in, if you consistently think of lifetime value of your customers, you will win in the long run.
For sure. And I can actually think of a couple of names that were involved in that first year, and they just brought again recently in May when we launched a massive new collection. So they're still here, they're still with us. So we've done an all right job with that. But yeah, when you think like bullish, I thought in my head, I'm launching hoodies and I'm doing leisure wear, and I think it's going to fly. But it was a very quick lesson that it's not that easy, especially when you're sampling with new suppliers, new manufacturers. It's half the battle, mate. Half the battle. You can have great ideas, but unless you get quality product through the door and you're happy enough to put it on the shelf, that's the harder part, I think, in a way. Because I think we've got demand now, which we can't even supply. But I don't want to put subpar products out. So I'm taking my time with things like leisure wear, with things like MMA gloves, and just expanding our fight kit range. I mean, we just launched women's as well. And we know that men's is about 80 to 85% of our orders and about 15% of women's. And it's similar on our social media as well. So we've got a similar following and demographic. So we know it's going to be much lower. But if we think there's a massive gap in that market, so we've gone quite bullish on that, and we'll let you know in a few minutes' time if it's the right thing to do or not. But if it sells really well, we've got a product line for the next year and a half to step into to grow that range for women.
So you mentioned about being a visionary. What's the 5-year vision for the business?
What would I be willing to share on here? So in 5 years' time, I see Eryx Gear home, headquarters, solid team that's around it, with people on site which are like full-time designers, full-time social media, full-time marketing, and a real strong team that is a bit sort of breaking the mold really on the current way that MMA is currently supplied with gear, the content that's out there, and trying to be the market leader. And I want to be market leader in the UK for sure, and I think that's achievable. The market leader globally is a much longer term plan. You've got companies turning over 50 million that have got massive foothold in the market already in some countries, but I would like us to be in a position where I'm on it full time. I've got a team beneath me, and we are leading the way. And whatever that looks like to everyone else is going to be different. But you could put some monetary value behind it as well, but it's probably not the most important thing at this point. I just want to get to that position and then grow it. And then my door is going to be knocking with people that want to get in on Eryx Gear. They want a piece of that pie. They can see there's growth there still, and have done a really good job getting into that position. And I want to be picky and choosy about who we bring on board to grow it globally. There was something that stuck with me. I watched it in a Ben Francis interview or something, and he said something along the lines of, he was approached by an investor, and the investor said, "Do you want to be like the biggest brand in Solihull or Birmingham, or do you want to be the biggest brand in the world?" And I think he just went, "Oh my God, of course. I'm thinking too small about this. Of course, I want to be around the world, and you're the right company to do it." And evidently, they're in a massive position now where they're in every market major market in the world. So probably a good thing to sign on that deal. And I want to be in a similar position in a few years' time where I'm picking and choosing who is the right company to take us to that next level.
For entrepreneurship and as an entrepreneur, what do you think is the key characteristic, if you were to use one word, an entrepreneur needs in order to be successful is?
Relentless. You have to be relentless. And I think you almost have to take all the rough with the smooth, because you're going to have really great days. You're going to have a great month when you get loads of sales, everything turn up on time. You've got loads of ideas in the pipeline, and that's all great. You can't get too comfortable with that. You have to be relentless on that constant to-do list that you're writing every day, every week. New people are going to enter the market whilst you're trying to grow, and you have to be relentless in your vision. So no matter what it is, I can't give up. I have to be looking at my phone at 7 a.m. as soon as I wake up. I have to work until late at night. I'm sometimes hitting the pillow and it's 11, half 11, 12 o'clock. I've got a big day the next day, but I'm still writing extra little things on my to-do list. And that relentless mindset is what will set you apart from other people that are, it's just a 9 to 5, it's just a side hobby, it's a bit of a passion. I'm not really too interested in it. You have to be relentless, because that's what will set you apart from everybody else. Not everyone is willing to put that effort in. It's hard. I've done it for 3.5 years now, and I've still not taken a penny out of the business. So I'm doing volunteer work to grow a massive business at the moment, and that is sometimes a challenge because you're not seeing the monetary reward yet. You're just seeing something you've built. You see some numbers on a piece of paper on a Shopify back end store or whatever. But you have to be relentless because I can see where it's going. I've just got to get there.
I think if most people worked out the hourly rate that they make or get paid from their business over the first, I don't know, even 2-3 years, they would walk away. And that's why I think so many people, and it's a classic observation of everyone sees the success and the LinkedIn post of, we just closed this deal and we just sold out in Holland Barrett or wherever. We got a partnership with JD Sports, but it's everything else that built up. The hours of research and development that you've put into your business, the mistakes, the hidden costs that hardly anyone looks at. That's the real price. And as well, you've got a sacrifice and a price on family. And that's why I think you said something that I agree with at the start. The advice you'd give to your 20-year-old self is to do it now, because the sacrifice cost to your family, to just your wider life is so much smaller. In my view, generally, when you're younger, the older you get, you've got more dependencies, and it's a lot harder to do. Richard, we have a tradition on this podcast where we go to the internet, we find questions from other entrepreneurs, people who want to be successful. So I've got a question here, which says, a fellow entrepreneur said, if you were to start again, how would you get your brand to £12,000 per month? It was $15,000, £12,000 for you. What would be the roadmap? And I know we've spoken before, there's several ways to skin a cat with a direct consumer brand. What would that look like now you've got that experience?
Such a great question, mate. I think how it would look like, I mean, that figure is a bit of an arbitrary figure. It just means that if you have about 150k every year, you're probably doing good. But you've also almost got to think, how much am I spending to get that 150? Am I spending 150 to get 150? And that's probably a position you don't want to be in. So I'll give you an answer, but I wouldn't concentrate too much on the turnover at the start. There is a way to do it, but it can be costly. And I think when you're starting out, you might not have budgets for paid adverts. You might not have the buy-in power for wholesale deals. But if I was speaking to myself 3 years ago, I would say to myself, get some wholesale deals in place. Because that cash flow initially can free up your business for buying power. So you're almost looking at it a little bit back to front. If I could supply these 3 or 4 companies with a load of kit at a discounted price, usually knocking like 40% off, so it's quite a high margin to knock off at the start. You also stock your own website at the same time. The cash flow from these guys and the brand awareness that's going out onto all their websites, if you can do it, is worth its weight in gold. We're just going through that process now. So this year, you will see Eryx Gear on a few other websites there. They're big in the UK, definitely MMA focused websites, but that will help us. It's going to grow us on the wholesale side. We'll get loads of more buy-in power, which then unlocks better suppliers, better manufacturing. And I wish I probably would have done that sooner, as well as starting paid adverts and marketing a lot sooner. Because in the first year or so, I was relying solely on organic, and for some reason it worked. We did all right for the first year or two. Creeping into that third year is when we saw the real benefits of using paid adverts and the return on ad spend and all that. So I was a little bit cautious on putting budgets aside every month. Here's £1,000, £2,000 to go spend on adverts, because what if it doesn't work? I've just lost a lot of my turnover. In reality, if they're set up the right way, and you'll know this, you can make money back off it 4 times, 5 times your money, and you get those sales very quickly. So that was a bit of an eye-opener. So definitely paid marketing is one, and probably wholesale deals is another one, because we didn't have that in place at the start. On reflection, it probably would help a lot.
Amazing. Richard, thank you for your time. Where can people find you, and where are we going with the business? Well, we know that, but where can they find you?
I'd say it's Eryx Gear on all platforms, ERYXGEAR. And eryxgear.com is obviously where you can get all the items for sale. And we're mostly on Instagram at the moment, but we are going to branch out into YouTube, do more sort of long form content, have podcasts like this, and have a lot of shorts shorts running on YouTube, TikTok, and sort of Instagram as well. So you probably won't be able to miss us, because if you've got an interest in MMA and you're on social media, you will see us. And in terms of where the business is going, just watch this space, because we've got some very ambitious plans. I almost have my business plan. I do one every April. I kind of ripped it up in March and wrote a brand new one, which was setting the bar a lot higher. So yeah, I'm really excited to where it's going to go. And thanks to everybody so far that's brought something, that's followed the account, that's took the time to come and talk to me at MMA shows, that share the pages, engage in the content, because it all helps me get Eryx Gear where I want to get it to. So thank you.
That's amazing. And if you serve the community first and focus on people as the primary objective, everything else will just follow in the back end. Richard, thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Cheers, mate.